Oh, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jason Mack. We're here with the OPSRC School Zone podcast. Very special guest today. Paula Kedy is here from Ada City Schools. I'm going to talk to us a lot about, they have a great program that's going on down there for their K-12 kiddos with an aviation program. They're teaching these kiddos all about how to fly, careers in aviation. And so we're super, super excited to have her. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome Paula Kedy. Yay. Paula, tell us about yourself. Welcome this morning.
Well, thank you, Jason. I'm really proud to be here. I'm the Executive Director of Academics and Instruction for the Ada City Schools. Nice. I've been with the Ada City Schools for a long time. I'm an Ada High School graduate.
Nice.
Yeah, I left there and went to teaching more for several years, and then we moved back to Ada, where my husband was coach and athletic director, golf
coach. What school
coach.
did you teach at Moore?
Well, I taught then it was called Moore West Mid High.
Yeah.
It became Westmore High School later. So I taught sophomores at Moore West Mid High for several years, and then we moved back to Ada.
Very nice.
So I taught advanced placement English, and I taught creative writing. So it seems kind of strange, really, to say that now I'm into STEM.
Yeah, go from liberal arts to all
I did.
sorts of,
I went from arts to science and technology and engineering and math. And
how did you get that's a different side of the brain. Like, how did you get over to that side?
It really is an interesting story. 3 of our community leaders that are also aviation buffs came to us and said, "Would you care if we brought some airplanes into your 3rd grade classroom? We want to talk to, aviation's big right now." Well, I kind of knew aviation was big right now. This was about 4 years ago this week, actually. And I said, well, sure, definitely, we need you. Because to be quite candid, our STEM program were not very strong at the time. We didn't have the money to build elementary STEM. The time mandates keep us a lot of times from being able to teach very much science in elementary. And so when they said that, we said, yeah, we're all about it. And so in they came, and about a week later, one of them called me and said, "Paula, if we paid your way to Seattle, your airfare to Seattle, would you?"
Done.
And I'm an English teacher, but
doesn't matter what the cost.
I'm going. I'll go. And he said, because it's the AOPA National Aviation High School STEM Symposium.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So off I go, and I actually took one of my STEM teachers, junior high teachers, with me, and we got out there, and I don't know if you've been to a lot of conferences, but they put you in these breakout tables, and you're supposed to collaborate and all of this. Well, they gave me a big sheet of chart paper and some Sharpies, and they said, write down the highlights of your aviation program and tell us all about your aviation program. And I was looking at the lady with me going, oh my gosh, we don't, we have no highlights. We don't have any program. Dot. So I kind of scooted over by people who acted like they, knew what they were talking about and went, okay. But we also visited a high school that was on the Boeing industry campus.
Nice.
And the high school was called Raisbeck Aviation High School. Okay. I walked in the door and we don't have this.
Sole focus is just aviation.
Yes. If you're in English or language arts, you're reading about Amelia Earhart.
Wow.
If you're in math, you're working aviation problems. If you're in the cafeteria, airplanes are hanging from the ceiling.
That's nuts.
Oh, it's nuts. Well, I just stood there and went, this is not fair. This is
just
not
like a feeder for Boeing?
Well, I guess in a way you could look at that, but it's just a feeder for providing pathways for an industry that desperately needs workers in every area. So I just left there in a way depressed, because I'm not because of what we didn't have in Ada City Schools, but what we don't have in Oklahoma.
Right.
I mean, the resources to build strong programs to meet an industry need that's extraordinary.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the doors are open.
Yeah.
And we weren't really doing our part. So how do you do that? At the end of that conference, the lady at the person from AOPA said, now we are writing some new curriculum, high school curriculum. And if you're interested in applying to field test this new curriculum, there's an application. Well, now, if there's an I can do that, okay? I might not be able to build the airplane, but I can.
I'll fill out the form. I got you.
I can fill out the form. I got it. And so we filled it out, and we were the only school in Oklahoma and one of 29 in the United States selected to field test. So,
Nice.
so 3 years ago in August, we offered one section, 20 kids, 19, 20 kids in Aviation 1. We have a traditional junior high school, so ninth grade is at junior high.
Okay. Yeah.
And so
Fantastic.
Aviation 1 was
Yeah.
on
Sophomores.
the junior high, no,
okay.
ninth grade on the junior high campus.
Nice.
Next year, we field tested Aviation 2 and still had Aviation 1.
Nice.
This year, we're offering Aviation 3. And Aviation 4 next year will be a capstone, could be an internship, could be some research development, those kinds of things. And so, in the course of about 3.5 years, we have built a true high school curriculum, thankfully provided by AOPA. It is quality, quality curriculum that a teacher can, the videos are embedded, the quizzes, the tests, the additional information you need, all of it's there.
It's turnkey.
It's turnkey, and it's free.
Oh, yeah. Nothing big's
Yeah.
free.
If you are willing to send your instructor to Frederick, Maryland, which is the headquarters of AOPA,
Okay.
if you'll send your instructor to AOPA for a 3-day training, that's all they ask.
That's it.
Yeah. Now, you can't do it if you don't.
Right.
Now, they offer it virtually as well, but to sit around and build stuff while you're talking on the phone to somebody, it's not, you know.
Yeah.
So we have made that work, and we have sent someone. Now, the trick is, so now every year, my instructor has to go to Aviation 1 or Aviation 2 training, Aviation 3.
Right.
This summer, he'll go to Aviation 4 because they're building this airplane as it's flying right now,
cool.
curriculum-wise.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it'll be rolled out.
Yeah.
And so we'll be excited to be a part of that. So next year, we'll be the only school in Oklahoma doing field testing year 4 because I know that you had a guest earlier from the Aeronautics Commission, I think, that visited with you about this curriculum.
Yep.
And we have, since we started, numerous schools have jumped on the bandwagon. Okay. In fact, I had visitors yesterday from Ardmore. Having visitors a lot saying, wait a minute, what's going on?
Absolutely,
because this is awesome for our kids.
Yeah. People see good things and they just want to jump on it too. I mean, offer it to their kids.
Exactly, because it is about, and my superintendent says this a lot, it's about opportunities. And I told, we had leadership, had the opportunity to speak at Leadership Oklahoma at the Skirvin the other day. And I said, you know, for a long time, those of us in education have taught in isolation. We teach content. You took math, you took science, you took English, you took health, whatever it was, okay? But the kids could never really draw a connection as to what would happen after that. Yeah. And so I think we're trying to do a better job to say, wait a minute, this has to be applied learning. Yeah. You've got to be able to understand.
Yeah. Well, especially with ICAP now coming around. I mean, this is ideal for that. I mean, all the hands-on tangible stuff and post-secondary opportunities that come out from this, it just fits right in perfectly.
It does.
I'm really
it
glad
does.
you guys got that going.
And so, you know, we've had the ability, and let me just take a minute to talk a little bit about the partners, because the other thing, I'm a career educator. I've been there for a long, long time, but in my entire career and my lifetime, I've never seen anything work as it really should work in a community partnership. Ada is not a large town.
Yeah.
We do have a very nice municipal airport, a regional airport, obviously not commercial.
Sure.
But we have lots of pilots and lots of supporters. And those 3 guys that I told you paid my way to Seattle, I talk to 2 and 3 times a week.
Nice.
They're behind everything we do.
Yeah.
They get tears in their eyes that this has come this far, this quickly. Yeah. And all I have to do is say, Bill, Dawn, guys, what about this? Can we get these kids in the sky? Will you fly them? You know, yes. What else can we do?
Nice.
And so they're my number one original partner. Okay. Yeah. And then let me speak to the Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission. These folks are tremendous. I know they recognize the need, and that's their job to recognize the need. Right. But they don't have to do what they've done for us. Right. You know, they've backed us. It's just been remarkable. I'm going to meet them later. And what are you doing? What do you need? They sent, I mentioned going to Seattle. Well, since Seattle, there have been 3 other yearly symposiums.
Right.
We've had the opportunity to speak. Adam went with us from the Aeronautics Commission to Denver last week, and we spoke there.
Nice.
They offer a grant program, and he probably mentioned that. You can. I don't like to mention it because I don't want to share the wealth.
Sure.
Yeah, but they have a aviation education grant program, and if you apply, and it's not just for schools, Boy Scouts and various after school programs that need some assistance in plane kits or whatever, they help there too. So you apply in May, you find out in late summer, you're awarded in August. And so we've received 3 consecutive grants from the Aeronautics Commission. That helps us tremendously, tremendously. So we got our high school pathway going, and our pre-K kindergarten principal called me one day and she goes, we're going to have A is for airplane. 4-year-olds. A is for airplane. I said, okay, I like this.
Yeah.
And my mind started circling a little bit. American Airlines asked us to apply for a grant. And so I wrote it with the focus that we're going to back down from high school, back build the curriculum, pre-K. Now, it's not so much the curriculum as it is awareness opportunities. So we took 254-year-olds out to the airport for A is for airplane.
So herding cats out there on the airstrip.
Yeah.
Watch out, babies, get back.
It was herding cats. Yeah. And they had a big poster, A is for airplane and everything.
How fun.
Yeah. And so dumb me at the end, I'm a former high school teacher, and I said, let them let out some energy, let them fly, meaning fly around with their arms.
Sure.
Yeah. One of them, and luckily that one's parent was with him on the field trip. Okay. I mean, he started booking it down that runway.
He's trying to get takeoff.
I mean, we're heading to Oklahoma City north on that runway, and my eyes, I'm going, okay. And so about that time, the Chickasaw Nation hangar door went up, and the Chickasaw Nation jet came backing out. And I said, oh my gosh, get the kid off the runway. So that was the principal looked at me and said, Paula, what are you, and I said, I taught 12th grade. I didn't teach 4-year-olds.
You are the lion tamer, Paula. Let the lion tamer tame the lions.
Exactly. I said, give me a break. But, they loved it.
Right.
They loved it.
Absolutely they did.
And so they've gone back now to that campus, and they have built an airplane on their playground.
Nice.
They have an airport in one of their classrooms. They've turned it into an airport. I wish we had the capability to show you a video clip, but the principal called and said, come down here to our airport. And so I went down to the airport. I didn't even know they had one. I went in. The little girl had her little keyboard, and she hit on the keyboard, and she said, have a nice flight. And so and then the next one went over, and there was somebody with a flashlight to look at the documents.
Sure.
Okay. And then the best part is they built a scanner.
A little TSA action.
They built this scanner with dowel rods and a little tub. Yeah. So the girl put her baby doll in the tub and was running the baby through the scanner. And
did they make you take off your shoes or anything?
Exactly. Well, then she had a ruler and she did the scan.
Oh, man.
Okay. And then there are 2 indoor airplanes, and the little guy, it just made my heart so happy. I mean, he said, are you ready for takeoff? And I said, I'm ready, and so we got in. It was awesome. And
so cool.
It is cool. And it's enough to see that, hey, all you have to do is provide a little spark, a little interest,
Yeah.
And so we began, with the help of an American Airlines grant, we were able then in 3rd grade, we did a program called Yaw, Pitch, and Roll Forces.
Oh, okay.
And they got to get I'm getting ready to do it right now with our 3rd and 4th grade, but they get a big styrofoam plane. The high school kids are going to come over and work on the parts of the plane with them and let them use a Sharpie and take the plane home and all of that.
Nice.
And in 5th and 6th grade, my superintendent's real proud of this because he named this activity, May the 4 Forces Be With You. And so they are doing a program, building some little model planes and doing some things. Blue Sky Foundation out of Dallas-Fort Worth came and did professional development for our teachers because a lot of them are like me. They hadn't had a lot of STEM
Right.
background.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. Yep.
you know, to hop in and start teaching aviation
Yeah,
or even
right.
aviation awareness is sometimes difficult.
Yeah.
And then in 8th grade was the other targeted year. In the 8th grade, we did an aviation career fair, and
Okay.
it was just for aviation jobs, careers.
Okay.
Okay. The kids did the booths and the
I like
presentations.
that.
Yeah. So we set the whole gym up. Every booth it could have been air traffic control. It could have been airframe and power plant work like Tinker.
Mm-hmm.
It could be any of those things. It could be armed forces, any of those. And so they went through the booths. They got to do some paper airplane, build some stuff, and do some air. And that was 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
All of those with a purpose to hopefully lead the kids in the interest of taking those high school
Right.
courses.
Yeah.
So then in
Yeah.
9th grade, if they would feed into that pathway of coursework.
Now, what is it? What is the demand like? Are you guys capping that 9th grade aviation 1 class at 20, 25,
Well,
30? Or are
no,
you
we
breaking
really-
into 2 sections now? Or
We would. 2 reasons we're not. Number one, 9th graders only have about 2 electives.
right? Okay.
And with 2 electives, if they're in band or athletics, they're
Then
done.
it's
It's
over,
really
right.
hard. Yeah. So aviation 1, we've kept it 1 section.
Nice. Okay.
The other reason we really haven't is because, and I'm going to get to this in a minute, because every school that contacts us says, "Who's teaching this? We don't have an aviation person.
Right.
You know, we don't have an aviation instructor. Who's
Right.
teaching this?"
Right.
Well, if we have an upper level mathematics teacher that's teaching the aviation 2 and 3
Okay.
this year, and I've got a technology person really teaching aviation 1. Aviation 1 is a lot of aviation history, and it doesn't have a whole lot of engineering and
Sure.
stuff with it. It's really a pretty
Right.
basic introduction foundation course.
Okay.
But if I use my upper level mathematics teacher to teach aviation all day,
Right.
there's not another one out there.
Right.
It isn't like we don't still have a teacher shortage. Let's
Right.
get real.
Right.
And we
Absolutely.
certainly have a higher level mathematics
absolutely.
teacher shortage.
Yeah.
And so consequently, right now it's just a 1 section pathway. Would
Okay.
we like for it to be more?
Sure.
Yes.
Right.
But we can't right now.
Yeah.
The cool thing, one of the things we did is that last year we let some senior high performing level kids into aviation 2 because they didn't have the opportunity to be in the pathway. They were already at Ada High School, so they
Okay.
couldn't go back to Ada
Right.
Junior High and take
Right.
aviation 1,
Right.
you know. And so we let some seniors in.
Mm-hmm.
It was awesome. One of them now is a freshman at Southeastern Oklahoma State University in aviation commercial pilot
Look at
program.
that.
I know he's our first out there. The other senior is now at the University of Oklahoma in aeronautical engineering.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a current senior right now
Because those
that's
seniors didn't get a chance to take
Any
they
of
didn't
them.
get- yeah.
aviation 2 was
Right.
all they were in, and then they graduated.
Right.
And then there's a current senior right now in aviation 3 that is in the nomination process for the United States Air Force Academy. Now, whether that
Nice.
happens or not, it's a process.
Yeah, it is a process. Yeah.
But he's in that process, and
Nice.
we're really proud of that fact. So some of these older kids that we let in have really kind of been a boost
Yeah.
also to our younger one. Oh, you
Well, it
know.
only takes that spark. It only takes that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, we might could do
Yeah.
this, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And the other cool thing is that our instructor, my old guys, I call them my old boyfriends out at the airport.
Sure.
You know, they're retired, most of them. Their organization has paid for Mr. Eckler, our instructor, to at least get to solo, and he soloed last Saturday. So our teacher is learning to fly.
Really cool.
And I can't tell you how much I appreciate a teacher that is a lifelong learner.
Right.
That
Absolutely.
shows a kids, hey,
Absolutely.
I can practice what I preach,
Right.
and I can learn how to
Right.
fly.
I'm learning this just like you guys.
I'm
Yeah.
learning it. Yeah, he had the technical knowledge, and he could teach it without being able to truly fly.
Yeah.
But the willingness, and then
absolutely.
let me go back to my part about the community partnerships. The willingness of our community to say we'll help him pay.
Right. That's
He's a
big.
young fledgling teacher
Right.
with student loans and a house
Of course.
payment
Right.
that does not have the funds.
Right. To get his
Very
pilot
few of
license.
us would.
Right. Exactly.
You know, to get in the air. And so they are helping him do that. And what a blessing that is.
Oh, absolutely.
To live in a town that values.
I know, and that's what I'm saying. Like, this is Ada, Oklahoma. Like, you wouldn't expect like this from Little Ada, especially with such a rich aviation history that our state has. I mean, all the pilots, the famous pilots that have come out of the state. I'm surprised that no other big municipality had taken this on yet. And so
I think you had to sort of we were at the right place
Right,
at
the
the
right-
right
yeah,
time
exactly.
when they said, does anyone want to field test this?
Right.
I'm not sure that anyone else, if they hadn't been
Right.
there, would have really known, you know?
Or, like whenever, as, educators, whenever community members come to the school and say, hey, this is a really cool thing that we're doing. Would you guys like to do this? Like you said, sometimes our heads are so far down in RSA and getting these test scores up
Good
in
job,
community
Jason.
outreach
Yes,
and all sorts of stuff,
exactly.
right? It's just like not one more thing. I just can't
No.
do one more thing.
You think I'm gonna build an
right,
airplane?
Exactly.
Right.
But, for you guys to have the wherewithal to see the long-term implications of this, to see the impact that this potentially could have on the kiddos, I mean, that just speaks volume to the staff, the administration, the community partnerships, like you said, and then the students' willingness to jump on board of it and just take to it like, a flame to gasoline. I mean, it's just
Right.
super big.
It's huge. And it's we focused this year a lot on women in aviation, girls in
Nice.
aviation.
Yeah,
As you well know,
yeah,
STEM is still
absolutely.
an
A male dominant.
open
Yeah,
field
Right.
for our girls.
yeah,
And so we took, last year we took a fairly large group to Tulsa Airport to the Women in Aviation Luncheon.
nice.
This year we took 44 girls, and it was out by Will Rogers. And, most of those girls had never been to a luncheon, much less a Women in Aviation luncheon. And I
Yeah.
sat and I watched them, and I thought, this is awesome.
Yeah.
To be able to provide this
Absolutely.
opportunity. Again, it was because of American Airlines and Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission. We don't have the funding. The other day when I spoke at the Skirvin to Leadership Oklahoma, and I'm going to say it again, and I don't care. There were many legislators in the room that day, and I said, if you really truly think we can wiggle our nose and have the quality STEM programs
Right.
that people expect to happen and have to happen, they have to happen if Oklahoma is going to turn around. We have to have some help.
Yep.
Because were it not for American Airlines and the Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission and even the Tulsa Regional STEM Alliance, who has helped us, these people who have the forward thinking to say somebody's got to help.
Right.
And thankfully, our community and these organizations have done that and have provided us enough seed money, enough capital we have some simulators, flight simulators, And let me talk again about my community in the city of Ada.
Yeah.
The bond issue that we passed has, when I was growing up, and you probably also know about this, but we had industrial arts and shop at school.
Yeah.
Well, our old shop room was in
In bad shape, for
disrepair.
sure.
Bond money from the city of Ada allowed us to this year remodel, refurbish, build an aviation laboratory at
Nice.
Ada High School. Okay.
Yeah.
If you went into it now, you'd think you were really somewhere good.
Really?
Not that Ada High School's not someone
Right.
good. We're good, but man,
Yeah.
it's cool.
Nice.
And a school in Missouri donated a plane fuselage to us. It was in terrible condition, and nor did I realize when it arrived at the airport one Saturday morning that it was going to be as large as it
Sure.
was. But it's redone, repainted. One of our partner, GAMI, General Aviation Modifications, Inc., that's on the campus of our airport,
Okay.
helped us repaint that.
Nice.
We have new carpet. Textron Cessna plant in Independence, Kansas gave us new seats for it.
Yeah.
If you're building it, they're out
Yeah,
there.
absolutely.
And you have to realize they understand that they need workers.
Right.
They understand that the only way to get them is to have our schools recognize the
Right.
need and to build some programming.
Yeah.
So we have a beautiful room. We had the grand opening 2 weeks ago. Our community, our mayor spoke. Our mayor had his little daughter on his shoulder, and he turned around and he looked at the crowd and he said, "This isn't about anything except for Finley Landrum.
Exactly.
This is what this is about." And she's 5 or 4 years old or whatever.
Yeah.
But having a pathway
Yeah.
for her. And so that's what we've been. Every time we do something else, we realize, whoa, this works. This is cool. Our teachers like it. Our parents like it. I also want to give a shout out, if I may. We have the Dart Solo Cup. You know the song Red Solo Cup? Okay. We produce Solo Cups in Ada, Oklahoma. We have a Dart
I didn't know that.
industry.
Okay.
Yes. And Dart offered us the opportunity to write a grant. And so we were able to put a STEM lab, what we call it a Dart Foundation iLab, investigation lab, in all 4 of our elementary sites.
Nice.
So new flooring,
nice,
collaborative furniture, Pittsco education products, lots of good STEM things.
Yeah.
And so the last year and this school year have been sort of our foray into really strong elementary STEM. So if we're going to do an aviation project in elementary, then now we have a place to funnel those kids through there and really do all those hands-on activities. And because of them, we have lab coats that say Ada Cougars all the way down to 4-year-olds. And we have safety glasses, and they think they're exploring and scientists. And it's a whole new day. It makes me, it makes me happy. And not that you don't still need to write and have language arts and all those things that we've been teaching. You have to still. But it provides kids an interest in learning, and I think we've got to do that.
Well, and like you said, it's such a multitude of different things that they can dip their toes in now. So that way, whenever they get to college, they don't waste the first 2 years on just I don't know what I'm gonna. I'm not
exactly. That's what I told the people at our grand opening that night. I said, how many of us in this room said, well, I better change my major about 3 times before I really know. Yeah. And not that we're locking some kids into a pathway, but if our young senior that graduated last year that's at Southeastern in aviation right now would have never known. I mean, he liked planes, but he didn't know that that's a possibility for him. And at Southeastern, there'll be people already, American, Envoy, Southwest, courting those people that are in that program. And I want to say Sooner Flight Academy at Norman, at Westheimer, again, Southeastern. We took our oldest group last year to Oklahoma State University Speed Fest, and you had to build remote control planes to enter the contest. This was really a high point in my educational career. 8 Saturday mornings in a row at 8 o'clock. Those kids are out at one of them, my old guy partners, shop buildings, building remote control airplanes. They weren't sleeping in bed. They weren't on their phones.
For 2 months.
Yeah, for 2 months.
God, but
2 months.
That's commitment.
And then we went up to OSU for spent the night, had a fun time, went to Hideaway, flew the planes, went out to OSU. They have an unmanned, it's not an airport, it's a runway system. And anyway, there were college teams that were there. There were high school teams that were there. They thought they were big time, And again, our guys, we don't know how to do that. I don't know.
Just to get that exposure. It's ridiculous.
Right.
That they have this opportunity at this age. I mean,
and so they thought it was awesome. Yeah. And it was awesome. Yeah. And it gave them a real feel that they were somebody. Yeah. And they were scientists. They were aviators. Yeah. And the other thing I'll mention, this EAA chapter, the guys at the airport, and there are a couple of women, and I'm now a proud member.
There you go.
But they really decided, well, hey, we need a 501c3. We need a scholarship program for these kids. So last year, we had our first gala. We had it in the new terminal at the Ada Regional Airport. We raised a little over $40,000 for flight scholarships for kids. And so they gave 7 scholarships. They gave 5 to current students that we have right now, to enough to get them to solo. Okay. And then they gave 2 college scholarships, one to Tanner that's at Southeastern, one to our young man that's at OU in aeronautical engineering, received a scholarship. And so they providing the chance to not only learn it, but to do it. And it's awesome. And so this year, on May 2nd, we're going to have our second gala. Although this one is going to be more of a World War II retrospective type,
Okay.
old school dance
Yeah.
for a big band.
Nice.
We've asked General Deering to come speak, and some veterans from Korea and Vietnam, and
Nice.
maybe even World War II.
Okay.
Although
Yep.
there aren't
Yeah.
many of those.
They're the needles in the haystack now.
Exactly. But how awesome would that be?
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yep.
So we are having our second round of fundraising gala for these scholarships.
Well, just on the first one to get $40K, I mean,
It was.
speaks volumes.
It was.
Yeah.
We went, whoa, this is good,
Right.
you know. And our kids, they did some panels, some speaking panels. We had some luncheons and brought in our town supporters that, bless them, support everything we do.
Yeah.
Our banks and our, our industry that we do have, understand the value of our kids.
Yeah.
And so it gave our kids the opportunity to learn to speak, to share what they're doing.
Right.
Tanner, that I keep referring to, that's at Southeastern, went with. I asked him to speak at the banquet last year at the gala. You know how they are. Yeah, I don't know if you do. But yeah. Well, I don't think so. Well, I said, I'll work with you. I'll help you write it. And another young man, Dalton, both of them. Well, they did beautifully. So this year, although he was at college, I said, Tanner, I have to speak at Leadership Oklahoma in a couple of weeks. Would you go with me? Yeah. Do I get to take some talking points? And I was going, oh my gosh, I've created a monster.
Yeah, he wants to jump on stage now.
Yeah, he was all about
Excuse me, I have a...
He was all about it. He came to our grand opening the other night. He gave some remarks about what it had meant to his life, had that pathway,
Good.
and to share, the opportunities that he's been given. So,
well, it sounds like, I mean, the community partnerships that you guys have formed in Ada, like I said, the bond issue passing and the importance of bond issues and how the STEM stuff can be tied to that, not just to build stadiums or buy new instruments for the band. Like, all that can be in there, but also to have that STEM focus on there and be forward thinking is really, really huge. All the partnerships, like you said, with the bank and the municipal airport and stuff like that, it really sounds like the community of Ada has really wrapped around this thing and kind of is nurturing it and bringing it up. How does this thing sustain? Like, how do you see that working
that's
out?
a really good question. And the other thing I would springboard off of that is that we've taken this model now. I'm kind of really, how dumb was I not to recognize before how powerful this could be? I mean,
you don't know what you don't know, though.
We ask our banks for bottled water, and we ask them to have a hamburger fry for our teachers, and they do that without question, But had we gone really forward to say, hey, we have this really strong program and this is making a difference, And so how do you sustain it? We continue to write the grants, obviously. That's important. We continue to, and let me speak out for the Ada News. I mean, I don't make a move that I don't tell the Ada News what's happening. Probably our townspeople are going, how much more about airplanes do we have to hear? I mean, seriously.
We get it. They go up, they come down, the kids are doing it. We got it.
We got it. I will say a lot of them are saying, I wish we'd had this when I was in high school.
Right.
I
wish I had this.
Had this opportunity, So we are trying to sustain it by continuing to write grants. We are trying to sustain it by continuing it to put it out in, I post everything and we continue to write articles. They did a huge spread about our grand opening the other night. Our city manager is a pilot and an aviator, and he sees the reward.
Nice.
But that when the guys, the EAA chapter guys came to me, they go, we want kids at our airport. Yeah. That's how we learn to fly. But after 9/11, the pilot population and plus the pay was not very good, and so now supply and demand, it's out there. And we have also tried, and I will say this, to make sure our kids are aware that becoming a pilot is not the only thing they can do, although the curriculum is really pilot based. It's the pathway we have chosen. We've taken them to Shawnee, to Gordon Cooper Technology Center. They have what's called an A&P program, which is airframe and power plant. In other words, you're working on the engine and you're working on the body. And we've taken them to tinker so that they could see if you had an AP certification, you could work at American Airlines in Tulsa, you can work at Tinker. There's lots of places. There's jobs everywhere. And so in 3 semesters rather than college,
Right.
if you went to an A&P program at a technology center, you're going to have a certification and some skills that'll get you employed immediately.
Right.
Pretty high paying too. Right. So we're trying to keep it in the forefront. We're trying to write grants. And the other thing is we're trying to use this model of community partnerships with other STEM endeavors. Yeah. Obviously, oil and gas in Oklahoma is the #1 economic driver, followed by aviation and aeronautics. I'm sure that the folks from the commission told you that. Yep. So why not you talk and teach natural resources? In Pontotoc County, we have lots of oil and gas folks, needless to say. Yeah. They're willing. They'll come in our classrooms. Right. We're a major partner. I feel like one of our major partners is the Oklahoma Energy Resources Board, the OERB. Yeah. We hosted a big statewide OERB workshop 2 weeks ago and had teachers from all over Oklahoma there. OERB, I want to give them a shout out because they were the first really forward-thinking industry to say our schools really matter. They do professional development, science, and all kinds of content areas. They provide teachers with a kit of materials to go back to their classrooms with the stuff that they do not have. And so we're looking at doing natural resources, oil and gas programs. We have a recent new partnership with Mercy Health. Nice. It's so awesome. They called and said, Paula, would you send us a lesson plan template? And I said, yeah. And could we meet and talk about getting some of our healthcare professionals into your classrooms? And I said, you mean all the way down to A is for airplane and N is for nurse?
There you go.
Yes, we're all about it.
Nice.
And so the last probably 4 weeks, about the last month or two, we've been meeting with them. And really x-rays and diabetes and major concerns, vaping and all kinds of things that we're going to try to get into these STEM labs that DART provides. I mean, do you see it's a whole...
It's an ecosystem of itself.
It is. It is. And that's what we're really trying to do. So not only sustain it, but to learn from it and add some programming that would be similar to it.
Well, it sounds like now that you guys have, the community backing, the STEM labs, so like the infrastructure is there. Like you said, it's just kind of like putting the icing on that cake and figuring out if you want sprinkles here or stuff here and adding all these different programs to it. I might have to buy a house in Ada.
See, there you go. I can't tell you. I mean, okay, so we've talked to Yukon, we've talked to Deer Creek, we've talked to Ardmore, we've talked to all kinds of people who really and truly, I don't want to say this, but have more at-hand resources than we do. Yet, in a way, it's a blessing to live in a town that's of good enough size to have resources. But still, the mayor, I taught the mayor, the people are your people. Right. And if you say, would you help, they're most of the time not going to go, well,
right.
I will, or whatever. Right. And so it's a really good problem to have is that you're hooked to all of these folks.
There's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's a blessing. It is. It is. It's a blessing. You mentioned RSA a minute ago, and another thing that's really, I don't want to say... one of the problems is in a school day at an elementary, the mandates of time are a real issue. And while, yes, you can teach science and social studies through reading, yes, I think most educators get that. Right. But if you want to have labs, if you want to do hands-on things, it takes time. So even if you have time, even if you have resources and you write and get materials, it's still really hard to build a schedule that will allow for that regular learning to happen. And yet they get up and have to take an ACT with science. If you haven't built a pathway all the way up, they're not going to be successful. And so we're kind of tied in some ways in that area. So that's a barrier. Time is a barrier.
Time is always going to be a barrier, though.
Yeah, it
you
is.
know.
It is.
And yeah, it just takes, the admin from the top down to prioritize, what they want in their schools and the vision moving forward. Paul, you guys are doing really big things down at Ada.
Well,
Proud of you guys.
thank you. We are too. We're proud of our kids. Our visitors that came through yesterday, and thank you, my teachers. I've dragged people. I mean, my aviation teachers looking like who's coming in this today, And I went in there yesterday with our visitors, and it was our year 3 students, and I said, some of you tell them what you plan to do, and one of them said, I want to fly, but I want to fly in the Air Force.
Nice.
The other one said, the young lady, one of the young ladies that wouldn't have spoken in a million years, is now brave enough to visit with visitors. I'm just as proud of those skills as I am aviation skills. I'm telling you. Yeah. She said, I plan to go to Southeastern as well, and to major in commercial pilot. Another one is, as I mentioned, interested in the Air Force Academy. And they were all just speaking up. And but it was almost like, it's nice to see you visitors, but we're trying to study.
Right.
And they were just,
we're working
over
guys,
here.
guys.
Yeah, it was so cool. And even the visitors went, well, that was pretty awesome.
Right.
It's almost like they couldn't be bothered,
Right.
We're learning. And I thought, boy, this is how this ought to be.
Absolutely.
Not turn your book to chapter 12 and do the vocabulary.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with vocabulary,
Right.
but come on.
Let's
learn it
right.
in hands-on learning. And so I've turned a lot of corners myself.
Sure.
And seeing this happen
Sure.
has kind of made me, as people, Adam at the Aeronautics Commission says, an air evangelist.
There you go. I like that.
Because it's about our kids.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's about Oklahoma to me.
Sure. Yeah. And like I said, I mean, with such a rich history in aviation,
Exactly.
I'm shocked that more people don't have STEM labs that focus on aviation and aeronautics within their thing. I mean, drones or any sort of flight stuff that they can be working on. I'm just surprised that a lot more people haven't jumped on that yet. And so maybe Ada is just leading that curve. Hopefully Ada's leading that curve, and we'll get more schools that jump on board. With the guidance that you've provided with us today, I really do appreciate you sharing your story, because hopefully it gives people a little guidance on how to get started on this thing.
If you're looking for partners, if you have an airport that has an EAA chapter, if you have a tribal entity, everyone has a nearby tribal entity. How much they are into aviation is, I don't know,
Right.
but it's definitely worth
talking to them.
a visit about. You have your regular local businesses. If you have aviation industry in your area, we have, as I mentioned, GAMI and Tornado Alley on our airport campus. And the folks from Maryland were here 2 years ago to visit. And I said, they go, what's that over there? And I said, well, that's General Aviation. That's GAMI. That's General Aviation Modification, Inc. And she goes, what do you mean that's GAMI? I said, well, that's GAMI. And she goes, I know what GAMI is. I didn't know it was in Ada, Oklahoma.
Right.
And they were going, this is big.
Right.
Well, they manufacture fuel injectors. That people come from all over the world to Ada to have put on their personal planes or jets or whatever. Well, I guarantee you 3/4 of the people of Ada don't even know what that does.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's particularly our kids. Why would they?
Yeah. Right.
One of the years we were out at the airport and they were talking to the Metaflight folks that are out there on the campus at the airport. And one of the girls, I heard her, she didn't even know I was listening, but she circled around the helicopter and she goes, well, I always knew I wanted to be a nurse. I didn't know I wanted to be an air, in the air. And I thought, okay, this is cool.
Yeah.
This
Instead of riding on an ambulance, you're riding on a helicopter and dropping in, right?
Yeah. I'm going to be a Metaflight nurse. And so it's just like a little light bulb. And the other thing that slapped me smack in the face was we were at Westheimer in Norman, and they had the engine up on one of the airplanes, and they'd shown them where Toby Keith's airplane was. They thought that was all great and everything. Well, they were looking at an engine. And a little girl, one of our senior girls, Aisha, she just had her face down there, and I said, Aisha, what are you doing? I said, I thought you wanted to go into veterinary medicine. She said, Miss Kedy, how do you know I don't want to be a veterinarian that flies? And I went, ooh, good point.
Right, sorry about that.
I said, we're limiting.
Right.
Are we limiting?
Put them in one box, one lane.
Yeah. Are we letting them see what's out there? Yeah. And I think we are trying to do that. And you mentioned being forward thinking. Our superintendent has been extremely forward thinking. He allows me to go off on weird tangents and
go to Seattle and
go do whatever I'm going to do. I'm going to go to OPSRC today. See you after a while, whatever. Yeah. Because again, he realizes what it does for our kids and what it does for our program.
It's all about the kids.
It is. Yeah.
I love it. As we wrap up here, I have some rapid fire questions for you.
Rapid. Okay.
These are one-word answers. Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay. Pancakes or waffles?
Waffles.
Coke or Dr. Pepper?
Dr. Pepper.
You want to go to the beach or want to go to the mountains?
Mountains.
You like comedies or dramas?
Dramas.
Do you prefer secondary or elementary?
Ooh, that's loaded.
That is loaded. I want you to answer that.
I'm better at secondary, but I'm working on it.
Pumpkin pie or sweet potato pie?
Pumpkin.
Okay. Thanksgiving or Christmas?
Christmas.
This is an easy question. Are you driving somewhere or flying somewhere?
Right. Right. I better fly.
Right. And then who's your favorite teacher and why? I
had a really strong college English instructor. Most people say it's my first grade teacher or whatever. Right. She was really uncollege-like.
Okay.
She was spirited. Yeah. She was a relationship builder. Nice. She was positive. She was hard, but she was positive about what you wrote. She was energetic. She really taught me how to teach, to tell you the truth. Mm-hmm. And it was a gift that she gave me, not so much to learn a content area, but how to teach. Right. And that has stayed with me.
So much is about relationships and building that.
Even at college.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep. Her name is Peggy Nims, and she came down that hall, and she was happy to be there, and learning was important, and she valued your opinion and all of those things, and it was good. Yep. She was good.
Very good. Paula, Kedy, thank you for joining us today. How can people get in touch with you? Like, we'll put it on the show notes, but we just...
Yes, I'm in the administration building at the Ada City Schools, and the main number's on the website, adacougars.net.
There it is.
And I think my phone number would be on there as well.
Very good.
I'd be very happy to visit with anybody because... We all steal. We all share.
Exactly. We don't steal. We borrow.
I don't.
We borrow.
I steal. I told the folks from Sooner Flight Academy, and they came to our open house the other night. I said, I steal everything they do, and they don't care because I still bring my kids to them too.
Right, exactly.
It's a learning. It's a friendship,
Absolutely.
And it's a good thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, like I said, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
You've been a wealth of knowledge. We hope that people take advantage of these opportunities, as you have, to build those community partnerships, and to just ask and ask and ask. And what's the worst that they're going to say is no.
No.
That's it.
Right. So, been my pleasure. Thank you.
Well, thank you.